now is the 2024 Campaign Executive Director, Veterans for Trump. She is Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff, who joins us right now on the line. Jessie, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's really an honor to be here. I'm actually in Milwaukee right now at an event, so there's a lot of noise around me, so I'm glad I was able to find a semi-quiet spot to talk to you.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. I guess my first quick questions for you would be, how do you think the first couple days of the Republican National Convention have gone through your eyes?
Well, I've been to 4 other conventions. Well, this is my 4th, I should say. And the energy with this one is distinctly different. And maybe for a lot of reasons that maybe people hadn't expected. One, President Trump appeared on Monday, and we were able to see him. And that, you know, when you're supporting a candidate, particularly one that just survived an assassination attempt, I think that it's incredibly moving. Because, you know, often people don't see their candidates till the day of their nomination, you know, the official balloon drop, all of that. He's come in, he and J.D. Vance both have come in, sat and listened to the speakers, and seeing them engage with the crowd, engage and wave at us. That is actually just very, regardless of how you feel about President Trump, it's quite moving to see that he said, I'm going to attend, I'm not going to change anything because of this attempt. I'm not going to it's kind of like after 9/11 when people started to say, we're not going to let terrorism influence our lives, we're not going to become afraid, we're not going to stay at home.
I do agree with you that after 9/11, it certainly appeared for a while there, people were able to put politics aside, and we did come together as a country. I'm with you there 150%. We've heard the messaging, at least, which is you guys are trying to bring people together. Donald Trump has said that in an interview, I believe, over a day or two after the assassination attempt, and he's changing his speech. With that being said, I wanted to ask you this. I mean, there are still some people that spoke yesterday, like you had Ron DeSantis, who compared Joe Biden to the movie Weekend at Bernie's. You heard what Ron Johnson said, where he said the Democrats are a clear and present danger to America. And then he said he read the wrong speech. I mean, I could go down the list, right? There were incendiary comments that were made yesterday. And I want to get your thoughts on that. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think those comments are lowering the temperature?
No, they're not, because we don't see the left doing it either. I mean, I'm sorry. We have to all agree that this is politics, and there's going to be a lot of punching back and forth. I think it would be very ignorant for us to say that suddenly Democrats and Republicans are going to hold hands and unite. That's a ludicrous thought. Just a few days prior to the assassination attempt, Joe Biden made very flamboyant, remarks about having Trump in a bullseye, and then also talking about us, people like me, calling me an extremist, MAGA extremist. That has been repeated so many times that often, if you repeat a lie long enough, people do begin to believe it. I served on active duty 20 years in the Marine Corps, and I served with people of all political and racial and ethnic backgrounds, religious persuasions. We didn't really even talk about politics, to be quite honest with you. And what I find is that when you're calling one group of people an extremist, you and I both know what that really means. That's like code talk, trying to say we're racist, trying to say we're Nazis.
Right.
This type of language has been going around Democratic circles for some time, because I'm on the opposing end of when they're calling those names. And yet Joe Biden will say there are normal Republicans, so that he can try to say, but they're with me, they're not with him. The labels they've given to Donald Trump have been pretty unfair and not based upon his record, because his record demonstrated far greater things than what we call extremism, Nazism, the alienation of races. That stuff is just political rhetoric, and I hope that Americans can see through that. Look at the policies of Joe Biden, look at the policies of Donald Trump, and say, hey, this is why I support this candidate, instead of saying they're a bunch of extremists. That's not a political argument. It is really just, rhetoric. And I see through that. I look at policies, look at what I support, what I don't support, and make my decision based upon that.
Listen, I'm with you. I wish both parties would just focus on policy and then let the Americans decide. I'm with you. I'm also glad that at least Joe Biden apologized for that bullseye comment. And I think the temperature needs to be lowered. And you're right. It can happen on both sides. I don't disagree with you one bit. I feel when, listen, if a Republican says that the vice president is a DEI hire, I'm sure you would agree. That's also inappropriate. Talk about policy. Let's talk about policy. I agree with you. So listen, Jessie, I completely respect your service, as I do for anybody who serves this country honorably. I think you all are heroes. And even though I don't always agree with Ron DeSantis, I will always agree with his service to this country. With that being said, I think you're the perfect person to ask this question, since you are the executive director for Veterans for Trump. And I know you've been asked this question before. What went through your mind when you heard Donald Trump say he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured? What went through your mind?
Okay, that's really being taken at. So I appreciate that you invited me to your show, but number one, I'm not pulling up the script from what Donald Trump said, but way back in 2015.
Sure.
And you're throwing me a curveball because you want to trip me up.
No, I'm not trying to trip you up.
No, you are. No, you are. Let's be fair. Because
you
are. Because yes, you are. Because John McCain was very much against Donald Trump from day one, and some of the things that were said during that campaign were not appropriate. And when we look at how John McCain turned his back on Donald Trump when he said he would support him, I think a lot of that vitriol was what comes with politics. So I'm not going to go into that murky area that you really want to pull me into, because I think Donald Trump's policies and what he's done for veterans, what he did for our military, speaks for itself. He got the VA approval rating up to 91%. He enabled veterans who are suicidal to get outside mental health care, because our Veterans Administration has continually failed veterans when it comes to mental health care for a variety of reasons. He allowed veterans outside of a 50-mile radius of a VA hospital to start seeking care. I know this because I'm impacted by those things. He extended our GI Bill so that it lasts for a lifetime instead of having the 10-year deadline. He also ensured that veterans were able to, those that were 100% disabled, had loan forgiveness. So I think his record with veterans is quite proven. I personally have my own personal views about John McCain that are not supportive of him, his policies, his behaviors, many things that he did that I felt were not in good favor for us veterans. So for me, that is a question of going back. And if you want to talk about rhetoric, we know the left has said far worse. And, I can't even sit here on your show and insult you by suggesting that the left has been really sweet and kind and gentle towards us conservatives, because that's not true. And I would like to say this. It was Joe Biden that said he was going to pick a black woman. He didn't say a qualified woman. He didn't say, I'm going to pick the best woman. He made it very clear. And he set her up for that type of rhetoric. And that's what bothered me when he picked her, long before I knew what kind of vice president she would be, because I could debate all that. I, as a woman, hated that, because you just put a target on her head as being picked because of her gender. And that's the last thing, particularly somebody like myself, who had to serve 20 years with a male-dominated environment. I didn't want anybody to ever suggest I was there just because I was a woman. So why did he have to say that in the first place? So they're kind of getting that pushback because that's what he set the tone up. I wish Joe Biden said, I'm going to pick the best qualified person to be my vice president, and then surprise everybody. No, he made it gender and he made it race. And that is not the way we should be doing things.
So I'll be the first one to say I don't think someone should be picked because they're a woman or a man or because of the color of their skin. With that said, I would also say that we could have our disagreements on the vice president, but would you agree with me that while you might disagree with her policies, that she still is an educated woman, right? She's still qualified, even though you don't
her approval ratings in California, where I'm from, were astronomically horrible. She couldn't even get 1% of the Democratic vote, and she had to drop out before she hit the Iowa caucus. She incarcerated quite a number of black men for their marijuana crimes, and then turned around and joked about it. She is historically known to have had an affair with Willie Brown. You know this. It's on the record. And that is why a lot of people are concerned with her. There's so many wonderful black women that I have worked with, served with, that I think could have made such a better choice.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. And by the way, I'm not trying to trip you up. It's my job to ask people challenging questions, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican.
You're going back to 2015.
Okay,
We're talking about a man who has a proven record as a president.
Okay, so with all due respect, you just talked about an affair that the vice president had years and years ago.
Right, with all due respect, you started talking about the past.
And that's okay. I don't mind talking about the past. I'm not criticizing you for that. But you just talked about the vice president having an affair decades ago. You're someone who served this country honorably, which, by the way, I respect the hell out of, and I respect our veterans every single day. I do charity work for our veterans, and I'm just confused. I'm not asking you about policy. I get it. You don't like John McCain's policies. Guess what? I didn't agree with John McCain either on a ton of different policies. But I think you and I could hopefully agree on this, and then we can move on to something else. There's a difference between not liking somebody personally or not liking their policies and then saying, I tend to not respect people who are captured. You're somebody.
So you really think that the left has treated
I'm not asking
President
you about
Trump
the left.
fairly?
I'm not asking.
No.
Why is it? What about
this?
it?
This is absurd because you want to go after President Trump when you know the left has attacked him mercifully. They've called him a Nazi. They've called him.
I don't agree with that.
All the names that are being
and I don't agree with that.
That's regardless. But then but this is the thing is you're not defending Trump for that. You're trying to find something that Trump did when you don't look at how he and his family have been attacked over and over. No, let me be very clear.
If a Democrat,
you are attacking.
No,
you are not defending.
I'm asking you a question.
You are not defending. You want to bring up John McCain. That's where you got to go.
Okay,
so
we can go on to
really what I'm talking
we
about.
can go on to other
left,
things.
The left,
I'm not the left.
The left has gone after. No, you are. You follow MSNBC nonstop.
You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm a registered independent who didn't vote for Barack Obama or Hillary.
Look at your Twitter handle before I came on here, and it was clear.
Well, you're being combative with me. I'm being respectful to you. You're being combative with me.
I'm being combative.
Ma'am,
okay.
I didn't vote.
Okay, ma'am, sir.
I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I voted for 8 Republicans in the 2022 midterms. It is my job to ask you challenging questions. Now, you don't have to answer any of my questions, okay?
I've asked you challenging questions. Why is the left stop attacking Donald Trump? Nonstop.
Okay,
call him a Nazi.
Sure.
Call him a Marxist.
Let me respond to that. Let me respond to that.
No, but it's absurd. Why aren't we just talking about the policies of what makes Donald Trump a favor to the American people instead of bashing them? Why don't we go into that?
Okay,
Why don't we go into that?
Let's go into that. Sure, let's go into that.
Okay,
first of all, let me respond.
When we had lowest inflation rate, when we had a 2% inflation rate, when we only had we had record low unemployment for
everybody. We have lowest unemployment now that we've had in 50 years.
No, we don't.
Under
it's
Joe
over
Biden.
4% right now. It's already climbed up, and our inflation hit record highs in 50 years.
Okay.
Record high inflation at 9%, and unemployment now has gone back up over 4%.
Can I respond to that?
No, it's my interview. No, let me tell you what's going on.
So
you get me off the air. You get me off the air, and you can rebuttal me nonstop.
So
you're inviting me on to talk about Donald Trump.
And you're not letting me talk. You're not letting me ask you questions. You're not letting.
Because we just said we're going to talk about the policies, and I'm going to give you those examples.
The unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in 50 years under Joe Biden. You're lying.
No, it's not. Yeah, no, I am not lying. It just climbed up over 4%. Right. I am not lying. Do not insult me and tell me I lied. Well, that is a ridiculous assessment because I've lived my life with integrity.
You support a liable rapist, 34-count felon, so I will insult you.
Okay. Oh, well, then why invite me if you're inviting me to insult me?
Because you're the one who started to become... Because you called me a liberal and you mischaracterized me and you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. I'm a registered independent. I'm a registered independent.
Your Twitter handle supports MSNBC.
No, I don't even watch... I don't even watch MSNBC. You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Look, we know that you lean left.
No, I think I'm a registered independent, and you lean right.
What you're registered at,
and you lean far to the right.
I don't profess otherwise. I don't lean right. I am on
I know.
the right.
What is it
I
like?
am a conservative. I've always voted conservative.
So do you think?
Voted Republican.
Gotcha. So do you think a woman should have the right to choose, or we should tell women what to do with their own bodies? What do you think about
Donald Trump has not said he will make a federal ban on abortion, and you know that. That's a state's right
issue. Roe versus Wade was overturned because of Trump.
A constitutional amendment in California that allows women to have abortion as nonstop. They passed it in Ohio. Every single state has legalized abortion still. It was not a federal issue. It's a states' rights issue. So let's not go down
because Roe versus Wade was overturned.
That has nothing to do with Donald Trump. He
doesn't. He didn't help appoint the Supreme. He didn't help. Nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Right.
Who helped the Supreme Court justices?
It's not a constitutional right.
And who helped?
Because it is not a constitutional right to have an abortion. And read the Constitution. We all know that. He removed it because it was not based upon the Constitution, and the Supreme Court ruled on that. He didn't bring that Roe v. Wade. It was challenged by other states
because of the
were being told that they had to have. Yes, it's not a constitutional right. Where's abortion in the Constitution?
Roe versus Wade. I'm going to answer your question.
Then get into your states and have your states pass it in their Constitution.
So
That's what the purpose of your state's constitution is. But it is not in the United States Constitution, and you know that.
Gotcha. So Roe versus Wade was overturned because of the conservative Supreme Court justices that Donald Trump held to appoint.
Okay,
That's
but
why.
It wasn't constitutional. Read the arguments. There's no constitutional right for abortion.
Is there a constitutional right for a former president?
What amendment? What amendment is abortion in?
Is there a constitutional?
There isn't one.
There
isn't.
So you're not going to let me answer. Is there a constitutional right for a president?
I did answer. There is no constitutional right for abortion.
Is there a constitutional right for a president to have full immunity? What do you think about that? Since you want to talk,
the presidents all have had immunity, and it's not full immunity. Okay. It's in the practice of their office. Yes. Oh, really?
Gotcha.
Otherwise, Barack Obama would have been held accountable for droning a U.S. American. Otherwise, Joe Biden right now would be held accountable for allowing 10 million illegals to come over this country and infest us with drugs. So, yes, all the presidents benefit from this, including Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden, and George Bush, by the way. Every last one of them. And we could go after all of them and find things that we feel were illegal or inappropriate or whatnot. But at the same time, they were performed in the act of being a president, which is covered by the president. The president is able to do that, all presidents. He can now not go out as a private citizen, not in the performance of the duties of the office of president, and commit a crime. But nothing he did was criminal. That's why half of these cases have become a debauchery of what our legal system is. Joe Biden initiated, he said he would use every legal means possible to keep Donald Trump from getting on the ballot and going into the White House. And 3 days after Donald Trump announced he was running for president on November 15th, 2022, 3 days later, three things happened by this White House. They made sure that Nathan Wade was up there for over a day interviewing with them. They had Michael Colangelo, the number 3 at the Department of Justice, go up to New York to work with Alvin Bragg. And the third thing they did was they appointed Jack Smith, who was just now ruled not appropriate to be a special prosecutor, to go after Donald Trump. Jack Smith, all on the same exact day. 3 cases were initiated, all directly tied to the White House. All directly.
Right, and Jack Smith refiled that motion to refile that, so we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I'm just trying to understand something because you seem very angry at me, and that's not my intention.
You seem very angry at me too, so I guess that's mutual, isn't it?
I'm
trying screaming at me too.
Well, when you started to label,
it was me. Yes, it was me. Yeah, it was me.
I would like to continue the interview in a respectful manner. As I said, I respect your service as I do for anybody that serves this country.
Quit telling me you respect my service. I'm a full-grown woman. You could talk to me how you choose. It has nothing to do with my military service. I don't lean on that to garner anybody's respect.
Well, I wouldn't call you a sucker and a loser like the man who you support did.
He never said that, and that was refuted. And
so,
you know
Millie,
that 19
no, it wasn't.
Witnesses, 19. No, let me finish. Let me finish. You said that. He told us that is that 19 people refuted that, including some of the people
Millie's
that I
a liar.
know that were in the room.
So Millie's a liar. Millie's a liar.
Yes, Millie is not the most stable guy. Look at how he wanted to go.
But Donald Trump is.
Okay, so you've got a rebuttal to everything. Why do you invite conservatives on? Does it give you?
You know why? I'll tell you why. I'm so glad you asked that question.
Letting me finish. I know people that were in that room. Let me finish.
You just asked me a question.
I have been trying to. No, it was really a rhetorical question.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a question.
Well, I'm going to answer it.
Well,
I'm going to answer it. The reason why I invite people like you on is to have a debate. You make appearances on Newsmax where they don't challenge anything you say. I don't do that on this show. I invite Republicans on all the time to have debate and to be challenged. Why is it that you don't want to be challenged?
You want to ask? I'm telling you right now, you did challenge me. Now let me answer your question. You answered suckers and losers. I got people that were in that room. He never said that. That was a lie. 19 people. 2 of them were my friends, and they were there. That was a lie. So you want to sit there, and as soon as I said it was a lie, you said, no, it wasn't. Do you know anybody that was in that room? No, you do not. You do not.
So why did he lie?
Why did he lie? You come up with all these lies. You want to
come up with lies.
And talk, yes, you are suckers and losers. Give me a break.
Okay, who won the 2020 election?
I actually know people that were in that room.
Why are you screaming?
So you want to sit there?
Why are you yelling like a lunatic?
You started screaming. Oh, wow. You started acting like a lunatic.
Okay, I'm asking you a question. You don't stop talking.
You're not asking questions because as soon as I
started answering, you started screaming and yelling. Who won the 2020 election? Who won?
Your vegetable in chief, Joe Biden.
He's not a vegetable.
So there you go.
You support a rapist. What is it like supporting a rapist? You want to call him a vegetable?
So ask Tara Reid about how she was molested by Joe Biden. Ask about his daughter.
Was that proven in court?
You want to go with these petty little remarks?
Was that proven in court?
You're not even a serious interviewer. You're not even a serious
you go on Newsmax. You go on Newsmax and you're talking about serious interviewers. Yeah, and then you hang up the phone. You're a coward. I'm not a serious interviewer. What an unhinged lunatic she is, ladies and gentlemen. Unhinged lunatic Jessie Jane Duff, who called me a liberal and started attacking me when I was being very respectful to her. And then she says that I don't know how to interview people. What an unhinged lunatic that woman is. Impossible to even interview. I asked very poignant,